Here we are with the OLED G9, and while I was clenching my anus in anticipation of the retinal assault I was likely to face as soon as I started testing it, everything changed. Guys, I gotta admit, I was wrong about this monitor as the results really threw me for a loop. Now, what we're talking about today is the Samsung OLED G9 ultra-wide monitor, which is a 5120 by 1440, 240 Hz, 49-inch, 32 by 9, 1800R curved quantum dot OLED Generation 2, I believe, panel with a response time allegedly of 0.03 milliseconds. Yes, it does support FreeSync and G-Sync, and it does have a Display HDR True Black rating of 400. Now, in terms of the stand, it does come with one and it does everything you would expect it to do. It has one HDMI 2.1, one DisplayPort 1.4, and one mini HDMI port as well. Now, it is also VESA mount compatible, so that's great to see. But guys, even though this sounds absolutely incredible, we gotta talk about the price because this is coming in at a ludicrous $2,200. Are you guys out of your mind over at Samsung? That is absolutely insane. Now, after some gift cards and all kinds of other crap that you could do by pre-ordering it, it could be bought for a lot cheaper than that, but even when we're talking like $1,900, that's still a lot of money for a monitor in 2023, so it better blow me away. And does it? Well, let's find out by first taking a look at the color volume, where it got 156.7% BT709, 105% DCI-P3 coverage, and 71% BT 2020 coverage when it's set to the DCI-P3 mode. Now, when we move on to the actual calibration, here you can see in sRGB, it was a little bit messy out of the box, but thankfully with all of the controls available and an ICC profile, which I will have all my settings and profiles linked in my Patreon, which I do highly suggest you guys go ahead and take a look at in the description below, as yes, it did make a huge difference in that sRGB mode, cleaning it up quite a bit. And then moving on to the HDR mode, here you can see it was tracking the EOTF curve pretty well, and it wasn't too bad in terms of RGB balance, but once again, with a little bit of tweaking, I was able to get it much better. So I will have that in my Patreon as well. And not only is it very accurate after calibration, but quantum dot OLED technology brings a level of vibrancy and just wow factor and pop off the screen color that you just absolutely cannot get from any other technology, making this look absolutely fantastic for HDR and even SDR gaming. But now let's go ahead and talk about brightness, because here it's a little bit weird. So in terms of the 100% window, it's very, very good. And in fact, this is the brightest OLED I have ever measured in a 100% window. So that's really, really good. But where things get really strange is in the 10% window, it does actually fall far short of the S95C, which is using essentially the same panel. So it looks like Samsung is unfortunately limiting the brightness, probably to reduce the risk of burn-in. However, if you set to the 16 by 9 mode, you can significantly increase the brightness, although I'll cover that in a future video. Now moving on to a game, Battlefield 1, here we can see in HDR, it did actually reach 1010 nits. So yes, it does actually get fairly bright here, and that does get it closer to a lot of mini LED displays. So yes, you can get a good HDR experience on this display. And in terms of the minimum brightness, it does reach 0 nits, meaning you have an infinite contrast ratio. Also really good to see. Now in terms of latency, once again, very, very impressive. I got a total system latency of just 24 milliseconds, making this the second or third fastest monitor I have ever recorded, thanks to that OLED panel and the 240 Hz refresh rate. But what about the motion performance? And here, once again, very, very impressive stuff. It's pretty much exactly on par with the other 240 Hz OLEDs, such as the PG27AQ-DM, making it absolutely excellent in motion and a great option for competitive gaming. And guys, to make it even better, it is using a beautiful glossy finish. Now, it does have one downside. The particular glossy finish they use on these displays from Samsung do unfortunately light up a little bit when you put a bright light in front of it, so I do highly suggest using this in a at least somewhat light controlled room if you can, to get the best viewing experience. Now, in terms of viewing angles, it's also excellent as you are getting basically nearly perfect viewing angles out of OLED technology, and uniformity on Quantum Dot OLED is also really excellent. And in terms of issues, the only issues I found with this was that unfortunately the fine grain controls over the RGB values under the color space settings don't really seem to be doing anything right now, although that could change with future updates. So you can't get it 100% perfectly calibrated, but you can still do a very good job. But other than that, I basically have no issues with this display whatsoever. And guys, this is overall a really excellent display. It looks absolutely fantastic, and thanks to the new panels that they're using on their Generation 2 Quantum Dot OLEDs, color fringing is also much less of an issue. So you couple that with the higher refresh rate and the just overall more screen real estate you get on this display, and it's really good, guys. It does remind me a lot of the S95C. It looks a lot like it, just lower resolution and of course lower brightness as well, although potentially maybe you can get around that in the future. I'll go ahead and see if I can. So yeah, it is very good. My only other complaint is 32:9 for gaming is just really unnecessary. It is good for work, I'll give it that, but for gaming, very few games truly support 32:9. You are going to have a fisheye lens type of thing going on in a lot of games, and it just seems really wasteful that they created this display when they could have created something else. For example, instead of wasting extra resources on a super ultra wide type of display, why not stick to 21:9 and then move to a 38-inch 1600p panel, which would have had a much higher resolution and a similar PPI. I think that would have been a much better use of this technology, but either way, it still is very good. My only issue really is the price. At $2,200, guys, even though this is, I would say, the best monitor you can possibly buy right now, thanks to the really great OLED technology, the fast 240Hz refresh rate, as well as glossy finish and slight curve to it, yeah, at $2,200, it's really hard for me to recommend it to you guys. I really do think this needs to be closer to around $1,500 before I can recommend it. But if you are someone out there who you don't want a 55-inch TV and you want the best that Quantum Dot OLED can offer, then yeah, this is basically the best monitor that you can possibly buy on the market right now. Whether you're looking to connect a new console, gaming PC, or just need a fast and reliable HDMI cable to connect over long distances, Rupro has you covered with their certified 8K HDMI 2.1 fiber optic cable, available in sizes of up to 50 feet and can deliver a perfect full 48 gigabits per second connection over distances other cables could only dream of reaching. And with 48 gigabits per second of bandwidth, it can easily drive 8K 60 FPS or 4K 144 FPS 10-bit HDR video through its ultra-thin, flexible, and durable housing, and it even supports ER. So if you're in the market for a cable that can drive a beautiful new TV or monitor, be sure to check out Rupro on Amazon today.